Hey service coordinators and Crew 45 leaders. In this video, I just wanted to give you a little overview of everything that you want to keep in mind as we start Crew 45 up this weekend. And this is going to include just the basic things that you want to know with leading your huddle and what we're requiring of Crew 45 kids and really the goal and purpose of why we're doing Crew 45. So we'll start with that. So first of all, in Crew 45, this is for 4th and 5th graders who have signed up for this. So this isn't just open to anyone. Any 4th and 5th grader can go through it, but their parents have to be in on the loop of this, and they have read a little manual contract that we sent to all of the parents, just saying that I commit to be a leader, to set a good example for others, that I'm going to report to my Crew 45 leader, those kinds of things that are already, we got that agreement from them, and so it's really important that we hold them to that. Okay, so anyone who signs up for Crew 45 can be part of it, and this weekend they will get a t-shirt and they will get their very first special assignment from you as their Crew 45 leader. And so these are some things to be thinking about, because with Crew 45, the main verse that I will teach the kids, and they'll get a video specific to them that outlines this verse, but it's 1 Timothy 4:12, which in the NIRV says, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. Set an example for the believers in what you say and in how you live. Also set an example in how you love and in what you believe. Show the believers how to be pure." Now, obviously, believers is talking about anyone else who is following Jesus. And we want to really emphasize to these kids that, hey, you can make a difference right now where you are. You don't have to wait till you're an adult. And making a difference is more than just being on stage or having this great big job. Making a difference starts with serving the way Jesus did, doing little things to help other people, looking for people that are in need, jumping in, having a great attitude no matter what you're asked to do. And so throughout the year, you always want to come back to this verse. You always want to come back to, this is why Crew 45 is important. This is what we want you guys to do. Even though you're only 4th and 5th grade, you are student leaders, you're serving leaders, you're showing other kids what it looks like to follow Jesus and what it is to help other people. Okay, so now, for you guys that are leaders, and if you have any questions, you can talk to your service coordinator. But if you are a Crew 45 leader, that means that you're responsible to lead your huddle with your team every weekend. And this is important that you remember, okay, this is not just a thing to do. You're actually investing in these kids, and you're developing them and training them to be leaders someday. Okay, so this is an important job that you have. So it's important that you are on time and that you are consistent. So remember that your huddle is going to happen 5 minutes before the service starts. And this is something that the kids and their parents are aware of too. So we're challenging the kids to be there 10 minutes before the service starts. So that gives them time to check in and get into Kid Zone. And then at 5 minutes before, that's when you should be meeting with them to give them their job. Okay, so if you're in the Saturday service, that's 5:55. If you're in the 9:30 service, that's at 9:25. If you're in the 11:15 service, that's at 11:10. Okay, so important to be on time, be consistent. If you're going to be away for one weekend, or you know something's coming up, always tell your service coordinator so they can have someone else step in and lead Crew 45 for you. That is really important. Or if you know that another 5th grade or 4th grade leader is able to be there, you can take initiative and talk to them about leading the group for you as well. But always tell your service coordinator who it's going to be if you're not going to be there. Now, when you're giving assignments to your kids, so real important, with your huddle, lead your huddle with lots of energy and with kindness, okay? So make this a big deal, but also be sensitive to the kids and realize that some of them might be really shy and nervous. Some of them might feel really uncomfortable going up to a kid that they've never met, and they might need you to go with them and help them to do that for the first time. Other kids are going to have a ton of energy, and you'll need to rope them in and remind them, like, hey, remember what I said? Remember to do this. So just be on guard like you were if you were leading a small group, but you got to watch them throughout the service, okay? So lead your huddle with energy and with kindness. Make sure your kids respect you and that they're listening to you, okay? So this is really important too. So I know that you guys are big brothers, big sisters to the kids, but at the same time, you want them to respect you. And that's really important because you are holding them accountable to something. So for example, if you give someone a job to do and they don't do it, or they don't do it with a good attitude, you need to have a conversation with them to tell them, hey, Johnny, you didn't do so good with this. It's important that you have a good attitude and you do something when I ask you to do it. The next time, can you have a better attitude with this? So you as leaders, you need to have those conversations. If your kids don't respect you, that's going to be really hard to do or hard to get that response out of them. Okay, so keep that in mind. You want to be building respect in your group. Make sure that they're listening to you and that they are following through on what you ask them to do. And once you give out an assignment, make sure that you know what it is. So we're going to have a whiteboard where you can write down every assignment that your kids are assigned to. It'll be set up for you. You just have to fill in their names, but keep track of that. Make sure that you know who's assigned to what. And if they're making the silly sippers that day, make sure that Becky and Susie are making the silly sippers. Or if they're helping with jump rope, make sure that they're on deck and ready to help with jump rope. So you've got to be on top of that and make sure that they're ready to go and you answer any questions that they have, okay? And the wording for special assignment too, let's make that a big deal. So this is your special assignment today. So think of this like you're a little bit like Crew 45 is part of the FBI or the CIA. Okay, I know that sounds a little goofy, but we want this to feel really fun. Like you have a special assignment today and this is what you're going to do. Okay, and if you consistently lead it that way, kids are going to look forward to that job, whatever it is. Okay, now I kind of hit on this already, but if a child does have a bad attitude about something, be ready to talk to them about it. This is important. This is a part of leadership for you guys, that you are able to confront someone with grace, but you're being specific and you're talking to them directly. So if you've heard us talk about Matthew 18, if you ever have a concern or a challenge with someone, you go to that person and you directly talk to them. Same thing applies with Crew 45. Okay, so if a child has a bad attitude when you ask them to do something, go up to them and be specific and say, hey, Johnny, when I asked you to do this, I noticed that you had kind of bad attitude. What's going on? Use that as a way to find out maybe Johnny's just having a bad day, but find out, hey, what's going on, and listen. And then after that, okay, well, next time it's really important that you remember that we're leaders with Crew 45 and we want to set an example for the other kids. And if I ask you to do something, it's important that you do it with a good attitude. Can you do that next time? And it's important that you ask that question, can you do this next time? Get their agreement on that, because then that kind of gets their buy-in as well. I know that sounds like a big thing for a kid, but they will listen and they will receive this. I've had this conversation a lot of times with kids, specifically with worship. So there might be a kid in their Crew 45 shirt and during worship, they're sitting back like this. They're not really engaged. And I've gone up to them and I've said like, hey, what's going on today? Like, you're wearing your Crew 45 shirt, you should be up there worshiping. And maybe they're just having a rough day, so it's important to listen. But then I challenge them and say, hey, buddy, like I'm looking to you to lead the way for some of these other kids. And part of that is being up front for worship. Do you think you can go up there? Remember, this is all about Jesus. It's about setting an example for others. Can you go up and worship today and show the other kids what that looks like? And when I've had that conversation with kids, they do listen and they're like, oh, it shifts their focus a little bit. So you may have to remind them why they're in Crew 45 and what that looks like, that it's not just doing the assignment, but it's also leading other kids in worship, in prayer, in small group participation, all of those things, following the rules, okay? So be on the lookout for that. So if you notice a kid that's not doing something they're supposed to do, remember they need to set the example and you need to have a conversation with them. So that's a big one, but be looking for ways to have those conversations with your kids. Another thing I'll mention, so don't promise a kid that they're going to go on stage or give them an assignment about being on worship or being in the Bible story, okay? So those are going to be special assignments that probably I will most likely spontaneously do. But it's important that the kids are not, there's a real reason for this. I don't want our kids to do Crew 45 just because they think it equals being on stage or being popular or being famous in Kid Zone. Remember, they're kids, so we want to really protect them as they're growing as leaders. If they are too soon put on stage and given something that puts them in the spotlight, it can actually build a lot of pride in them and give them a diva mentality. And I don't want that in our kids. I don't want that in our team. And so you may notice that I've done this before. I may actually tell a kid that they're not able to do something because I'm thinking about that kid's growth and what's going to help him or her grow and develop in humility and as a leader. Okay, so they, as Crew 45, they shouldn't guaranteed to be on stage every week. This will be special stuff that we'll do at random times. And we do want to do that. We want to celebrate them for setting an example for the other kids, but at the same time, this is not something that happens every week. If you have questions about that, you can talk to me. But mainly we want them to keep their focus on others. You're serving Jesus, you're serving other kids and setting that example, even if you're not on stage. And there's a lot of important ways that you can do that. And then one other thing too, if a child for Crew 45 shows up not wearing their shirt, unfortunately they can't serve that day. Okay, so we will have extras in the back, but that's going to be for kids that join the team for the first time. We're not going to give out the shirts just all the time, like, hey, you forgot your shirt, okay, no problem. This is important because with the kids, this is one of the things that they're signing off on in the beginning, that if I'm part of Crew 45, I have to set a good example, I have to be on time, and I have to wear my shirt. If a kid is in Crew 45 and they're not wearing their shirt, then they're not taking that responsibility seriously. And then we need to follow up with them and say, hey, it's important you wear your shirt. That's how we know that you're a leader, that you're ready to serve, and you're taking this seriously. Same thing with everybody in Kid Zone. That's a great parallel. All of our leaders in Kid Zone wear a Kid Zone shirt. If they're not wearing the shirt, we have to get them a shirt or they're not able to serve. That's really important so we know who they are. So if a kid isn't wearing a Crew 45 shirt, they won't be able to serve that weekend. And so that conversation is simply, oh man, I'm sorry you forgot your shirt, but hey, this is really important that you remember to bring your shirt. Can you bring it next week? Okay, great. If you bring it next week, you can serve next week. But this week, we're going to have you sit out this time. But next week, we'll give you a job, but you got to remember your shirt. And then you can give them a high five or a pound or something like that. So I know that's a lot of information, guys, but real important that I wanted to share the heart of Crew 45, that this is an opportunity for us to train young leaders and show them how to model Jesus to those around them. And some of the things, some of the things they'll be doing, they may not just have an assignment on the board, but we want kids to get it into their DNA that they are showing new kids around. When new kids show up, they should be learning that automatically. They shouldn't have to hear that from their Crew 45 leader. But hey, if there's a new kid, I want to show them around Kid Zone. I want to make them feel comfortable, or even, finding out if a kid has a birthday and getting them into what's happening, help them to make friends. Another big thing that we want them to do is to be praying. So if they're praying in their small group for kids, or if they have an opportunity to pray in your huddle for Crew 45, those spiritual concepts are really important to teach them, that they're modeling something for the other kids, and they're growing too. That's going to be a new challenge for them. And finally, we will have monthly challenges that we'll talk about every month that tie into what we are doing in Allison Park Church as a whole. So for example, in September, the focus is experience God. We just changed it to experience God. And so we want to challenge Crew 45 kids to do something specific to them that's going to push them to spend more time with Jesus, reading the Bible, praying, inviting their friends to church. So there's going to be different challenges that you'll hear about every month that you'll have to talk about in your huddle. And so I know it's a lot of information, but again, remember, you are training new leaders and you're preparing them to lead, and you're holding them accountable to something and keeping them humble and keeping them focused on kids and on Jesus. So thank you guys so much for being part of Crew 45 and the team. So I will see you guys soon, and I'm excited for Crew 45 of this year. I'll see you later.